I'm Nora, and I've been running for a year and a half.
I'm Joslyn. I've been running for 3 months.
And this is Running Our Mouths, where we share everything.
And I mean everything.
About our running journeys. And today I am really excited because we are going to be learning more about Joslyn. I am going to interview her and ask her some questions about where she's at on her running journey and how she got here.
Love it. Can't wait.
Can't wait.
Before you get into that, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Have you been doing any cross training this week?
I'm so glad you asked because I actually have. I have been doing more cross training than usual. I've been lifting a little bit.
We love lifting.
Yeah, and rock climbing a little bit.
Cool. Lifting and rock climbing. What kind of lifts do you like to do?
The kind that Google tells me I can do with dumbbells.
I love that.
Yeah,
Just lifting at home?
I've been lifting at the climbing gym.
Love
they
it.
have dumbbells and stuff there.
Love it.
Been doing some kettlebell swings.
I love kettlebells. They're so fun.
It's really fun.
Yes.
Have you been doing any cross training?
This week, I've been focusing on yoga and stretching. Since I did my 5K in February, it was at the end of February.
Yeah.
It was a leap day themed race. Very fun. I've been focusing a lot more on stretching and yoga. Before my run, I took a small tumble. It was really just a skin deep injury, but it was my knee. Totally fine.
The knees.
No, I know, but the knees. That was like maybe a week or two before my race, and I was like, this sucks. But I took really good care of it right away. So like icing and the rice method.
Yes.
Rest, ice.
Compression
and elevation. I was doing a lot of elevation and a lot of ice and a lot of rest. Compression,
less.
Yeah.
The least important.
The least.
Surely.
Well,
I am not
I don't
qualified to
know.
say that. I'm just guessing.
It was fine for me to not do the compression.
Yes.
So because of that, I've been like, okay, I really want to focus on getting my muscles and everything back to being flowy and juicy and
totally.
nice. So I've been doing a lot of good stretching out those hamstrings, my hips. As we'll learn more later, I have a hip that bothers me a lot.
Oh, no.
But it's fine.
Good.
But it's fine. And stretching and yoga definitely help with my hip.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Let's dive right in.
All right, Joslyn. So my first question is, when did you start running?
That's a great question. I first started running off and on whenever I finished my undergrad degree from A&M Commerce, degree in English.
Very nice.
And I speak English every day.
We love the classics.
We love the classics. Love using my degree every day.
Girl, I studied philosophy. I'm with you. Actually, as a woman in fintech, I do use formal logic.
You do use.
I lose, yeah.
Freudian slip. No, literally, I do read to children every day, so it's actually
absolutely.
pretty awesome. Finished undergrad, and we'll talk more about it later, but I needed a free way to exercise, basically, after graduating. I was doing a lot of, like, fitness classes and stuff at our rec center. It was awesome, and included in my student fees and stuff, so it was great. I was there all the time. I was Zumbaing my ass off. I was doing the lifting classes. I was doing kickboxing. I was doing Pilates. Out of school, I was working as a reporter for a local newspaper. I was incredible. Like, well, it was really cool, but it was like not paying the bills.
Yeah.
Obviously couldn't afford a gym membership on top of barely being able to afford rent. So I was like, I need a free way to exercise. So I put on like what I thought to be running shoes, which were like little Adidas, kind of like, they were fine for running. They were fine.
Relatable.
And I started running around my little neighborhood. When I was a kid, though, I did do running. I did like soccer when I was a little kid, and we did laps and stuff. I was a defender, so I wasn't running a whole lot, but I was pretty active.
It all counts.
It all counts. Although my parents do love to tell stories about how when I was like playing bunch ball, they call it, like the 5 and under soccer, like really little kids,
sure.
Bunch ball, where you're just like following the ball. Nobody has positions or anything. You're just wanting to kick the ball. Lots of fun. But that I would often just sit and pick flowers.
Honestly, beautiful.
Never really had an interest in sports. Whenever I was in high school, I did marching band, and we were obviously very active for that. So did a lot of, not necessarily running, but lots of walking, lots of holding heavy things, lots of...
What was your instrument? Remind me.
I played trumpet.
Trumpet.
Yes.
Heavy.
Loved it. Heavy.
Yeah. And you have to hold your arms up.
You have to hold your arms up
at
certain angles.
That seems really challenging.
Well, anytime you put your arms above your heart, that's cardio. Maybe not necessarily.
I don't know if that's true, but it's hard.
Well, your heart rate raises, right? When
yeah.
your hands are above your heart.
Okay, yeah.
Mildly, but put on top of that holding something, right?
It's hard.
Yeah. It definitely counts as your PE credit, and I think that's fair.
And that's
I think that's fair.
Thing.
So that kept me active. So it wasn't really until after I finished college that I was like, I need a way to exercise that is very cost effective and didn't have to pay any money. Just went outside, put some music on, started running.
I love it. I think that's how so many people get started too. Like, you think, what can I do like right now?
Right now.
With what I have.
Yeah.
Running.
Yeah. You just go.
It's like the only one.
You just start. I had been taking a break. After that, I started doing more yoga and more Zumba things, group classes. I love going to group classes. So it wasn't until a few months ago that I got back into running. I honestly needed another cheaper way to exercise. Like, gym memberships are expensive. We were going to the rec center in town, which is really fun to do the group classes. And they have treadmills and weights and stuff too. Yeah. Very affordable, very approachable. But I was doing a lot of the group fitness classes and it was bothering my hip doing all the like jumping and bouncing and stuff with the dancing. So I needed to take a break from exercising, which was hard because I get a lot of fulfillment and joy out of exercise. And I had just recently started doing more exercise too on recommendation of my therapist, because I was like, whenever I come home, all I do is like eat. All I do is like zone out playing video games. Like, I need different coping mechanisms. And we came up with a plan of, rather than seeking like endorphins and dopamine from overeating, why don't we try exercise? And I think it was very good advice.
I love that.
I do too. Not to say that like exercise should replace, I don't know.
It's a fine line to walk, right? Because on the one hand, like,
if she had told me, oh, you should exercise, I would have been like, hell no, and I'm finding a different therapist. But since we kind of worked on the plan together, and she was like, what are some other things that you like to do? We talked about, like, she knows I like to do embroidery, she knows I like to do other kind of handicraft things, and I like to do yoga, but she kind of helped me just find this other avenue of stress release, which, working in a stressful job like I do, it's very important to have that way to relieve stress.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Yeah, it's not like a prescriptive thing. It's not like, oh, you're sad, you don't feel great, why don't you just try exercising? Like, it's not like that.
And it's only because I expressed interest in exercising. Right. I do get a lot of joy from going to a group class.
Yes, totally. Like,
working out with friends is
you're like
tons
leading that conversation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I started going to those group classes again, but like I said, hurting my hip, doing all the bounces and stuff. And I was like, what is going on? A friend started going to see a chiropractor about my hip, and it's helped a lot. And it's made running a lot easier. So I was taking a break from the group classes, needed a free way to exercise, started with walking and just kind of building up from there.
For sure.
And here we are doing 5Ks and stuff. Yeah. Pretty awesome.
Look at you.
Yeah, pretty great.
I love it.
Yeah.
That gives me a little bit to go on about why you started running.
Yeah.
But what was there anything else? Like, what else made you start running, I guess?
It was a lot of little things. Like we talked about when I interviewed you, I mentioned how your Turkey Trot 5K kind of got me inspired to get back into running, because I said, oh, I used to love running. I told you a little bit about how, like, after I was finished with college, I liked to go outside and just run and how great it made me feel. And then you started this run club. So that definitely has helped me stay on track. Mental health is a huge one for me. Having a way to relieve stress, and like, it helps so much with my anxiety and stuff, and having like goals to focus on. Extremely helpful. Exercising in general. I also wanted to use running as a way to just get better at cardio in general.
Yes,
we love hiking, and I had been struggling a little bit on our longer hikes, and I was like, this is annoying, because I want to be able to hike for as long as I want to, do these really cool long trails. So I thought, what can I do? Running.
That's such a great point. I was so out of shape before I started running. Like, my laundry room where I live is down a flight of stairs, and it's a little bit of a walk and up and down stairs.
Yeah.
And so when I would just like carry the laundry and like go do it like up and down the stairs, I would just be like tired and out of breath. And running and like improving my fitness through running in a way that's fun to me has helped me in that area of my life. Like, doing the laundry is great and it's easy now.
Is it easier? That's good.
I mean, it absolutely is.
We recently just got back from a trip to Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Amazing.
Amazing. Very cool. And we went on a 5-mile hike with about an 800-foot elevation climb, which is not extreme. It's not a lot, but it was like very doable. And I was like, this is paying off, actually.
What
this
a great
exercising thing.
I love that.
It was great. And then getting to like the little peak and stuff, it was like, I did that.
Yes, you did that.
I'm up here. Lots of little reasons. I know it's good for your health. I think we have a whole episode planned about this, but whenever I tell my parents about my exercising and stuff, they're like, that's so cool. I really wish that we had exercised when we were younger and made a habit out of it, because now that they're older, they're dealing with health issues that could be avoided with regular exercise. Not to say that they will be avoided with regular exercise.
Yeah, just being active can help you out in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
Across your life. Across your life. And so, yeah, I do I think that'll be a fun episode, just thinking about and maybe hearing from some of our role models and what exercise means to them and how they've incorporated it in their lives. So now we know when and why you started running. What makes you keep going? Maybe when the motivation is low or when it's challenging. How do you stick with it?
Well, definitely having our running club helps me a lot to stay motivated. Like knowing that every Saturday we're going to be meeting up and doing a little no pressure half-hour jog that we can also totally walk during. It's so nice to have that standing date to be like, okay, if I don't jog any other time this week, I know at least I'm jogging on Saturday. But having that Saturday jog, if I would just did it once a week, it wouldn't get easier over time. So making sure I'm doing at least one other run during the week makes it easier and better and fun. It's great to set goals. I think doing 5Ks and stuff is like awesome. It feels so good for my brain. I think this is a conversation that we've had before of like, they were right. They were right.
They were right.
They were right.
Hate to see it, but
we hate to see it.
Right.
But exercising actually does make you feel really good.
Yeah, from like a mental and emotional stability standpoint for me.
Absolutely.
Me really,
too.
Like I've had days where I'm feeling really anxious, like in a very unhealthy way about something that I know intellectually is not a big deal.
Right.
But I can't shake the feeling. And when I go out for a run, it helps. And that is not going to be true for everyone.
No.
That is totally dependent on you and what's going on in your life. But
absolutely.
For me, it really is true most of the time.
Most of the time. I will say there are times where maybe if I'm feeling anxious or really angry about something and I try to run it out and it's like doesn't really help, I'm like, okay, cool. Love that. But most of the time, 95% of the time, running makes me feel better. And it just, I think, preempts anxiety. Like I sleep a lot better. Whereas before, my anxiety was like keeping me up at night, right? So having my running during the day, like, makes sleeping easier. Huge confidence boost in my ability, but also just, like, my self-image. Even if I know that maybe the way that I'm looking isn't changing, the way that I'm feeling is changing, and it's a huge confidence boost.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, it feels like so much of how we think about and talk about our bodies and, like, our perceptions of them is about how it looks. I have found with running, and I don't know if you feel the same way, knowing what I'm capable of and that I can do these things that I could not have done before, that I never would have imagined I could do.
Absolutely.
Like, that self-image, like, that way of perceiving my own body is incredible.
Yeah.
I never thought I could feel that way.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And two things about that. When I tell people that I'm running and they're like, oh, that's really cool, like, they don't have any, like, things to say about, like, oh, you look like that and you run. Like, when people don't say that, I'm like, okay, slay. But then when I say that and then people are kind of like weirded out by it and I'm like, and what are you going to do about it? Like, I am more cardiovascularly fit than you are.
Absolutely.
And I can also sit on you. So let's go. Like, we love that.
Because
anyway,
you're a runner.
That's right.
Yes.
You got me to say it.
I got you to say it. Goal of the pod accomplished.
Yeah,
that's
we're done.
It, folks.
We can wrap it up. Good job. This was great. Thank you to our sponsors.
So where are you in your running journey today?
Right now, I have another 5K planned the same day that you're doing your half marathon.
Yes. We are. It's our first run as a running club. We have 6 of us now are signed up that day.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we're running as a running group, running team. That's so exciting. Are there like team prizes and stuff?
There is a best dressed prize. There is a most participants prize, and there's a fastest prize.
Well, best dressed.
Yeah, that's
very achievable for us.
That's where I went. So we're gonna dress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, can't wait. Cinco de Mayo themed, right?
Yeah, it's the Fiesta de Mayo half marathon in Irving. There's a 5K, a 10K, and a half. I've heard from people who have run this race that it's a whole party. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
May 18th in Irving, Las Colinas area.
18th.
So, yeah.
Okay. I really should start putting these things on my calendar. So focusing on the 5K, started up training again for that today, working on surging, working on doing faster and slower so that I can improve my pace over time. Doing cross training, doing yoga, making sure I'm taking care of my muscles when I'm not running as much. My February 5K that I did was 38 minutes, which my goal was just to be under 40 minutes.
That's amazing.
Nailed it.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I know a lot of people finish 5Ks in under 30 minutes, and that's awesome and that's wonderful. Usually their legs are a lot longer than mine, and they've been doing it for longer.
That's incredible.
For me to be under 40 minutes in only 3 months of like starting from literally not exercising.
Yes, we got a badass.
I felt very proud. I felt very proud.
as you should.
So want to just shorten that a little bit. But like we've talked about, it's going to be warm.
It's going to be hot.
It's going to be... I'll say if I'm under 45 minutes for that one, I'll be really proud.
Yes. Okay, so you mentioned speeding up your 5K time a little bit as a goal. Do you have any other running goals you're working on currently?
Just keep going.
Yeah,
I think when I finished the 5K in February, and I think you've reflected this too, that motivation dropped a lot when that race was done. It was like, okay, done. Like, what's next?
I did it.
I did it, and I'm going to rest. And then it's hard to get started again. But our run club on Saturday keeps me going. So goals, getting back into a regular training regimen. Just keep going. Stay motivated.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thinking about any other distances in the future? Or?
You know, I started thinking about 10K because that would be what? 6 miles?
Yeah. 6.2-ish. Yeah.
That's very doable. Before
is.
I thought 3 miles was going to kill me, right?
I mean, look at you.
And look
you
at
do
me.
it like every week.
Look at me. When I told some of my coworkers today, I was like, oh yeah, I did a 5K. And then like, how many miles? I was like, oh, it's 3 miles. Thinking like, that's such a baby distance. But then putting myself in their shoes and being like, one of my coworkers was like, I can't even run for 10 seconds.
Right.
And I was like, well, you actually probably could, but that's fine. And then thinking, actually 3 miles is like a lot more than...
It's a big deal. It's a big accomplishment.
It's a lot more than nothing, you know?
It's a lot more than nothing.
It's a lot more than nothing. So now I'm like, oh, 3 miles is like fine. Yeah. So now I'm like, okay, maybe I could do 6. We'll see.
I love it. Yeah, we'll see.
It's March. Yeah. It's about to get really blazing hot, and honestly, I'm not going to want to run. I'll have to find a treadmill to run on in the summer because it's going to be impossible to run outside.
In Texas, in mid to late summer, the overnight low for quite a few days is like 80 to 85 degrees. So last summer I was training for my first half marathon. Yeah. So I would be waking up at like 5:30 to hit the lowest temperature of the day.
Yeah.
At 85 degrees.
Oh my God.
It's really hard to imagine like being acclimated to that right now. It does get easier as you get acclimated, but it's like you're going to be a sweaty mess. I was a sweaty mess. I'm going to be again.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind the sweating. Sweating to me is like, feels good.
That's true.
I'm exercising. That's great. It's like whenever I feel my heartbeat in my face, like that stuff of like, oh, I might be having heat stroke. Like that's what I'm worried about.
I think with that, being consistent is huge because so we talked about this last time about my marathon. It was 81 degrees when I crossed the finish line.
Wow.
And that was the hottest it had been in a long time. I had not run in anything over 70 in like 4 months. And I had only run as hot as 70 like twice. Most of my runs were in 35 degrees.
I like a cold run.
Oh gosh, me too.
Yeah.
So my heart rate was just like blasting, skyrocketing near the end when it got hot. And it just felt bad. But when I was like summer training and I trained from like January through as it got hotter and hotter, like your body gets used to it. It's the heart rate thing, like just feeling that I'm gonna die of heat stroke. It's I will say like it didn't seem as dramatic to me.
Perfect.
You know, you run in 70 and then 75 and then 77 and then 81, you know.
Oh, yeah. It's getting up there.
Or a treadmill.
I do like a treadmill.
I like a treadmill too. Yeah. Controversial running opinion.
Well, I like that it's inside. I like that it's temperature controlled. I like that I can zone out watching Food Network.
Oh my gosh. I love zoning out on a treadmill.
And like, oh, I have legs and they're working. That's crazy.
What are we doing?
I kind of forgot. But treadmills can irritate my hip.
You're using your muscles differently.
You're using your muscles differently, absolutely. I don't know. My chiropractor is very anti-elliptical, which I'm also anti-elliptical now. Yeah. That really hurt my hip trying to do elliptical stuff because it's a fixed stride. Yeah. And my stride is very short. Treadmill, also a little bit irritating, but inside, cooler temperatures in the summer.
There's some days when you have to.
You just have to.
It's not safe cardio. To do something else.
And it's cardio.
And it counts. Like, that is training.
Yeah.
On the treadmill.
Absolutely.
Just a couple more questions for you. Yeah. So what is your number one tip for someone who wants to try running maybe for the first time?
I would say just go.
Yes.
Put on a pair of shoes that you can work out in and go and walk, but try to run a little bit, try to jog a little bit, because you might surprise yourself. For this 5K, I used the Couch to 5K program to help me get ready, because I was the couch. We were one, and I needed to get active. I was like, I had started that. I had done that program before just for fun, not as like a getting ready for a race, but just to get active again. So did it again this time. Super helpful because it's interval training and it goes so slow at the beginning. It understands that you maybe are a person who is not active at all, maybe isn't even really walking. It's a lot of walking the first few weeks of the program, which I think is so helpful because you're getting your heart rate up, you're getting your muscles used to moving, you're working those hamstrings and quads, you're working on your leg strength, you're working on your balance, you're working on all the things that you need to be working on to be a successful runner, and taking it super slow.
Yes.
And I think that was your advice too, was to go really slow.
Yep.
Great wisdom. It does not matter how slow you go as long as you do not stop. Just keep going and take it slow and don't stop.
I love it.
But also stop if you need to.
Stop if you need to.
Stop
That's
if
so
you
true.
need to.
I think,
yeah. There's a difference between, I'm trying to think, that I had a yoga teacher one time who explained it so well, of like, you want to challenge your body, you want to become a better version of yourself, but if something that you're doing is hurting you in more of like a pain injury way, don't do it. Stop. Recover. There's a fine line though.
And I think that is maybe a good topic for a future episode that we should think about,
of like when to stop.
Learning to listen to your body.
Period.
I think it's so hard. That was something that continues to be hard for me, is like, okay, what's just normal soreness, like what's maybe injury. Pushing yourself is good, like you were saying, it's good to be challenged, but when does it become like unhealthy? So I think just as a runner, like learning to listen to your body and be conscious of what it's telling you is a good thing to talk about.
Absolutely.
Okay, last question. Why did you agree to do this podcast with me?
Well,
I want to know.
Simple answer, because you asked me to. And I was like, yeah. No, I like podcasts. I love talking. I like talking with you especially. I like garnering wisdom from you about running. You're very inspirational to me. I am kind of mesmerized by long distance runners because it's such a mental sport that I think that it takes up your whole life, right? When you're training for it.
Yeah, the marathon
pretty
did that.
Enamoring. And then you're about to do it again. So I'll see you later. I'll see you after Chicago.
Yes, podcast on
no,
hold.
Just kidding. But no, I like to talk. I like podcasts.
Yeah.
I thought this would be really fun and a great way for us to spend more time together and record it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I'm so glad you decided to. I know our listeners are glad to benefit from your wisdom.
Oh, thank you.
As am I. I love to learn from you too. So.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice.
Inspiration abounds in this room.
Absolutely. This very small room.
So that, I guess, brings us to our favorite segment, which is the unexpected running movie.
Unexpected running movie. I can't wait to find out what we're talking about today.
I'm so excited to show you. Have you seen the Oscar-winning... Did it win an Oscar? Did I make that up? Maybe it didn't. Anatomy of a Fall. It did.
It won something.
It won Best Original Screenplay.
Because I told you, I said, oh, this movie that you love that you've been recommending to me for months, I'll watch it now because it won an Oscar is what I said to you.
You did say that.
And you looked so sad.
And that's because that was a shot at my actual favorite movie of the year, Killers of the Flower Moon, which was robbed, but we don't have to talk about that because we're talking about Anatomy of a Fall. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I'm so sorry.
No, and that's okay.
Okay.
So,
because that was your favorite movie of the year, you would think. You certainly talk about it like it's your favorite.
Well, I guess that tells you what you need to know. It's in my top 2. For sure. They go back and forth. But
what about the food movie that we liked?
That's like maybe 6 for me. The Taste of Things. 6 or 7. I don't know. I got a list.
There were some really good movies last year.
Oh my gosh.
So many.
We were blessed. We were truly blessed with cinema. Anatomy of a Fall is an unexpected running movie because this is a movie about a woman who may or may not have killed her husband. That's sort of the central conceit of the film, is whether or not she did it. But it's,
and her son, who is blind,
is the only one around.
Right.
And their dog, which was one of the best performances of the year, Snoop, played to perfection by Messi. Highly recommend this film to anyone. Unexpected running movie because in the first scene, the main character is being interviewed by a grad student, a younger woman, interviewing her about her writing, because the main character is a writer.
Okay. The main character is not the wife.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sandra Hüller is the actress. Okay. Sandra, I think her name is Sandra in the film as well. I don't remember the character's name. But anyway, she's being interviewed by a grad student, and they're maybe flirting, maybe not. It's kind of ambiguous, I guess. And Sandra, the main character, is asking this grad student about what she likes. Like, she's turning the interview around and asking her, and this grad student talks about loving to run. It's like a drug to her. She loves to run.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's why it's an unexpected running movie.
It does make it a running movie. If we see running, if we hear about running, Boom.
So if you care about running at all, anyone listening,
you have to watch
You'll watch this movie.
Well, what do you think we could learn about running or about life from our unexpected running movie today, Anatomy of a Fall?
I think we definitely can learn a lot about life from this movie, but I'm going to leave that to the Film Bro pods to discuss.
Sure.
I do not feel qualified in this moment. What we can learn about running from the movie, however, running is a great conversation piece.
Yeah.
When you're in an interview and you're maybe flirting.
Yeah.
You can talk about running.
Absolutely. Well, runners are kind of sexy. It's a sexy activity.
It's a sexy activity. Mm-hmm. It's a sexy activity. Running makes you attractive.
I like running. And you're like, okay, they've got some cardio, they've got some stamina, they've got some endurance.
I should have thought more about that before I brought the movie up.
That's okay. I think it was great because all she says is she's a runner. So that's fine.
She's a runner.
She's a runner. We can learn that.
We can learn that running can be your whole personality.
Yeah, and that's...
Because in this movie, that woman's personality was that she was a runner. And that was enough. That was all it took.
Wow.
Profound.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess it passes the Bechdel.
It absolutely does. Because
they're talking, two women.
Yeah.
Talking.
They were barely talking about men. Mostly about other things. A man does come up because he's annoying them. Anyway, watch the film. No spoilers because this is like the first 5 minutes of the film is what I have described for you just now. Well, that's our show. Running our mouths.
Running our mouths. Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.